Greetings, this is Marcel Williams from Cape Town, South Africa, on Saturday, the 17th of December 2022. Today I'd like to share with you about the power of doctors. Illness is very much a part of our daily lives, and medical doctors play a huge role in our healing. We therefore have a great deal of trust and respect in doctors. But you get doctors and doctors. There's also a dark side to it. History repeats itself in many instances. This decade of the 2020s reminds very much of the decade of the 1930s. In the 1930s, a people in Europe were discriminated against, persecuted, and stripped of their rights. They were classified, given special identification, and forced into slums, which were generally called pogroms. This was similar to what we've experienced here in South Africa, where our people were removed from District 6 in Cape Town during the 1950s and forcefully removed to the Cape Flats for rehousing. That was done under the so-called Group Areas Act. But back to the people in Europe and the pogroms. These people were later forced into cattle cars, onto trains, and moved east for rehousing. The trains would arrive at the station platform in Auschwitz, the concentration camp, and they were then forced to disembark, confronted with aggressive soldiers and aggressive dogs, and rushed forward to form a queue. Now, this rushing forward, doesn't it remind you of also what happened in the 2020s when people were convinced and convicted to do a certain medical procedure so that they can stay safe and be on the case of helping everybody in general. But the point I want to stress here is that they were met with doctors on the platform, and these doctors would make the choice, very much the choice between life and death. They would wave the people into two queues. The one was for execution and the other was for slave labor. Of course, the people did not know. And all through this whole process, they remained clueless of what it all meant. They still believed that it was for rehousing. Doesn't this remind you also of 2020, where everybody was made to believe that it was for the good of everyone's safety to take a certain medical procedure? All rushed and all persuasive, with fear behind it all. But back to the group for execution, they were then led to showers, compelled to undress and to enter, usually in groups of 20. The doors would be locked, and instead of water spraying out, deadly gas was emitted. Then the panic would start, and the screams would become deafening, and gradually it would subside into silence. The doors would be opened and the bodies would be removed to be taken to the cremation ovens. And the next group would then be brought in. And this would be repeated and repeated and repeated. There was no escape. And does this also remind us also, if we really think about it, that there's no escape or there's no reversal for those who took that medical procedure? In the last 2 years, doctors were also involved, just like at the concentration camp. There's a certain Dr. F and several others like him who exercise great power and influence over the well-being of millions, if not to say billions. And I purposely hint here, and I hope you should understand what I'm saying. He referred to himself as Dr. Science, Mr. Science, and he did not tolerate questions. And billions believed him. There were no questions to be asked. Similar to the situation of the example I gave you of rehousing. People just believe that it's about rehousing. And I don't understand his concept of science, because science always requires questions in the research process. If it does not allow questions, it is not true science. So there is a huge question about this idea of science. And now presently, in our present situation, millions are awakening to these questions. But it's too late. Similar to the people that when the doors were locked in the concentration camps, gas ovens. It's too late. Why do I say it's too late? Because the medical procedure cannot be reversed. Once it's taken, it's taken. I don't know of any medical procedure to reverse that medical procedure that was taken. And I purposely hint here and speak in code because I don't want to, or I want to remain on this platform. So just to recap, doctors have great power and influence, but you get doctors and doctors. And in the future, I would like to do a special video to thank and honor the doctors who, despite the threat of loss and ridicule, they stood firm in their oath, honor, and integrity. And with that, I will close and say have a great day.